How can you become fluent in English without leaving your home country? In this video, I'm talking to Luca from Comprehensible German. Luca is German and lives in Germany, but she speaks English to a very high level. Let's find out how she learned.
Hello, Luca, and
Hi.
welcome to the channel. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, of course. My name is Luca. I'm from Frankfurt, Germany, and I teach German, kind of like Helen does with English, with a lot of input and in a very natural way.
And how long have you been learning English?
To be fair, my first contact with English was when I was a very young child, like a toddler. We lived in a house shared with an English family or a partially English family. So I learned some words and phrases that would come up every day, like it's bedtime. I knew what that meant. But then we moved out when I was also still very young. And then the first actual English lesson experience I had when I was about 9 years old, which is when you start English lessons in Germany, and then it just goes up until you leave school. That's kind of my first experience with English lessons.
Okay. And in your school, how was English taught?
In the first 2 years, when we're still in primary school, which is an intuitive approach to English, you just learn some nouns maybe. It's very playful. And then when you get into secondary school, that's when you start learning a lot of grammar, a lot of vocabulary. And also in Germany, it's very common to have an approach where students would talk a lot from the beginning. So you would have like 30 plus students talking to each other in very broken English with very thick German accents. So yeah, that's kind of what it's like. And there's a lot of grammar drills, a lot of vocabulary tests, and not that much native input. Not that much. And also the English teachers mostly are from Germany. It's very rare that you would have a native speaker teaching you.
I see. And did you enjoy the lessons at the time, or did you do English?
I was really excited in the beginning to learn English because I remembered that when I was growing up, everyone was communicating in English, so I was like, I'm finally gonna learn English. And in primary school that was still very fun. I really liked it, I enjoyed it. But then when grammar drills started kicking in, I really hated it. And also I was really bad in class in English. So I was also diagnosed when I was 13 years old with dyslexia, which is I had a lot of trouble with reading and spelling and also like memorizing numbers and stuff like that. So my brain just processes letters and written language in just a little bit of a different way, which at that time felt like a curse because it felt like I didn't belong in that class. I didn't. It wasn't meant for me to learn any other language. And also, there was also the mindset of most of my teachers was like, it's just not meant for you. Just give up.
That's really unhelpful.
Yeah, I was really, really bad in school. When I took English tests, I studied so much. Like I studied the grammar every time a test came around, and then I still did so poorly on all of my tests. And then at some point I also failed Latin big time. So at that point I changed schools, and I was kind of, in my head I was done with learning languages. I thought, okay, who cares? It's just not for me. My dyslexia kind of was a blessing because I gave up on that approach of learning grammar and vocabulary. And then I did that outside of school. So I learned English outside of school.
Wow, that's really interesting. Your English grammar is really good, but you didn't actually deliberately practice the grammar.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Outside school in Germany, do you hear or see a lot of English?
I think so. If you want to. So there's this stereotype that Germans are very good at speaking English, and I think that's kind of true. But I don't think it's because we learn it in school. Because I know people who speak really on a incredible native level, and none of them would tell you, oh, it's because I learned it in school. Because in Germany you have kind of the option to not learn English through a natural way, because all the movies and series, they're all dubbed in German, which is good for German learners, but for people from Germany it's very easy to just not learn English. But I think a lot of people from Germany really enjoy the native content and also the native speaker's voice in the movies and stuff like that. So yeah, and also music, English and like British and also American music is very popular in Germany. So you get in contact with that a lot, and that's also how I actually learned English, because when I was done with school, when I was in my mind I was just done with English, I learned English by accident, actually, because I wanted to watch series that were popular at the time, and then I had to wait so long for it to come out in dubbed German. So I just went online illegally and started watching the series online. And at first I waited for the subtitles to come out, and then eventually I couldn't wait any longer. I was like, oh, one more day for someone to put in the subtitles, I can. So yeah, that's how I learned English. And then also I started listening to so much English music and started to wonder, what is that song that I really enjoy actually about? So I started translating the lyrics and then just listening to stuff on repeat and just using phrases I've already heard when I was in a conversation with someone. It's like, I know what I have to say because I've heard that so many times on the TV or or in that song. So that's actually how I learned.
Okay. What's your favorite way to practice English?
So, yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, because I don't think I have been actively practicing my English for many, many years, but I'm still learning new words every single week, because I would say I consume media 90 to 95% in English. It's a very rare occasion that I would search for something in German, because there's so much on the internet, like so much knowledge you can gain. That's all in English. So so that's how I actually practice English, is that I just, whatever topic I'm interested in, and I'm interested in a lot of like niche topics, and I will learn about them in English. So there are sometimes even topics where I feel way more comfortable talking about in English than in German, because I just never learned them in German, and there are some vocabularies that wouldn't come up in my German life. So that's kind of how I practice. I just look for things that interest me, and I just watch all of that or read all of that in English. And yeah, that's how I learn English right now, and that's a very fun and easy way to gain new vocabulary.
So, do you think Germans have a preference for either an English or an American accent, or doesn't it matter?
I think some really do. I think quite a few Germans prefer, when they're talking, prefer the English accent. They're trying to simulate or emulate an English accent. But for me, it doesn't really matter, because my accent, I've got an accent. I am not really that interested in trying to get rid of it, because I watch English from so many sources, also from non-native speakers. So I hear accents from all around the world. And for me, at least, when I only listen to British English for quite a while, then my accent will gradually change a little bit into that, or American English, then it will gradually change into that. But I know quite a few people who actually have a very specific accent from or very like an Irish or a British English dialect, which also is like very, there are so many even just within England. So for me, I don't really care that much about having like to be accent free or to put an accent on, but for me it's more like I want people to be able to understand me. So I think a lot of Germans, in their mind, it's like the hierarchy is a little bit more like, oh, British English is a little bit more fancy, and then American English is seen as a little bit more casual. So I guess if they want to impress people, they would pull out the British accent. And if they're just talking to friends, most of them would probably go into an American accent, but also most of the movies that are very popular in Germany are from Hollywood, so with an American accent. So it's the same here. We have so many American movies, so many American TV series, so if you used an American accent in England, everyone would understand you anyway. So it doesn't really matter for visitors. I think the other way around, it's not really like that, because in the US, sometimes people have a lot of trouble like understanding British accents.
That's true.
But I think that's the beauty of the internet, and for me to watch and listen to things from all around the world, that I don't really have a lot of problems understanding even really hard to understand accents, because I listen to so many people from so many places. So I think that's really nice. I love that about the internet and YouTube especially.
Yeah, it's a good idea, I think, to listen to lots of different accents, and then you can understand most people. Do you speak any other languages, and did you find those easier or harder to learn than English?
So I speak Spanish and a little bit of Japanese. So with Spanish, I actually had to take Spanish in school for the last 3 years, because you have to, in order to get your high school degree in Germany, you have to speak English and then another foreign language. And at that point I still wasn't really interested in that, and I still hadn't figured out why I even was able to learn English. It just happened. So at that point I really wasn't that interested, so I didn't really learn anything in school. And then a few years later I wanted to go to Spain for a month, and I thought, wow, I want to learn Spanish. I was all of a sudden very interested in culture and stuff like that. So and then kind of around the same time I discovered like comprehensible input methods, and discovered that was the thing I was naturally doing with English. So that was way easier, way more fun. And now I can read books, I can watch movies in Spanish, I can actually just enjoy the language. My Spanish is far from perfect, but it's still in progress, my Spanish learning. And it was way easier because I already had so many English words that are cognates for the Spanish language. Okay. So like animal, alcohol, admirable. So that was very easy, because right out the bat you have so many words that you already know, that you already can recognize. And also with German it has also quite a few cognates. And that made it very easy. But then I started Japanese, which is completely different from anything that's going around in Europe. So that was also very interesting. I'm still very, very beginner level. But I think it's very fascinating. And also after I discovered I can learn languages in a very fun and easy way, there was just no hurdle to overcome to just even think about maybe if that was a language I was able to learn, because I was like, of course, I mean, babies learn it and then I can learn it. That's changed. The biggest change, I guess, was just the mindset of, language learning doesn't have to be like doesn't have to come with suffering and with pain, but can be a lot of fun and just like a really nice experience. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for people who are learning English?
I guess my biggest tip is to just make learning as fun as possible, even if you're already quite advanced and because a lot of people want to learn business English, business German, and I tell the people, just watch a series that takes place in an office or takes place in a hospital if you work in a hospital, and just consume that media and just find things that you find exciting, that makes your brain go woo, and then it's so much easier because every time you connect emotions to language learning, it just sticks. If you have to laugh a lot, that's the phrase that's going to stick in your brain, and you don't need 20, 50, 60 repetitions of vocabulary drills to get that vocabulary down or that phrase down. It's just make it a lot of fun. There's so many ways and creative ways to do that. Just read books you like, listen to music you enjoy, make it an enjoyable experience. I think that's my biggest tip, because that makes the biggest difference. Doesn't matter which medium you use, it just makes a really, really big difference.
Great. Thank you so much. That was really interesting to hear about all your experience of learning English.
Thank you for having me on your channel. It was a blast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.